Sir Shen Yu, my master requests your expertise immediately!
I transmigrated as the gaudy Peacock, but now I tailor for the general. Chapter 7. The success of the Shen Cut was like a rock thrown into a stagnant pond. It created ripples of wealth for us and waves of resentment for our competitors. The worst of these was the head of the capital's Textile Guild, Master Zhao. He was the establishment, a bloated, pompous man whose wealth relied on selling heavy, expensive robes with poor craftsmanship, relying solely on garish embroidery to distract from the flaws. My minimalist, high-quality, and highly profitable designs were an existential threat to him. Shen Li came to me one morning, her face pale beneath the soft lighting of the shop. "Brother, Master Zhao is making trouble," she whispered, carefully separating a roll of linen. "He's telling the dyers in the North Quarter not to sell us their rare indigo. He says our peasant wool is undermining the prestige of the guild." "He can say what he likes," I replied, carefully basting a seam. "We'll source our own dyes. We will not compromise on quality."
"Brother, Master Zhao is making trouble."
"Do not worry. I can handle this."
But Master Zhao was tenacious. If he couldn't hit the quality, he would hit the logistics. The next day, a small, nervous man arrived at the West shop, claiming to be a messenger from a remote dye master. "Sir Shen Yu, my master has a new revolutionary technique for fixing cinnabar to cotton, a rich, non-fading scarlet. He requests your expertise immediately. The dyeing is happening tonight in his workshop by the river." Cinnabar scarlet was the color of high nobility, notoriously difficult to set. A non-fading technique would be priceless. It was a tempting proposition. Too tempting. I hesitated. Shen Li caught my eye. "Brother, that dye master is known to travel. Why send a messenger now, in the dark?" "Exactly," I murmured, but the professional lure was too strong. "It could be a trap, but I must check. If the technique is real, it changes everything." I decided to take precautions. I told Shen Li to lock up early and not to tell my father where I was going. I went to the North Quarter workshop, a dilapidated building far from any main road. It smelled strongly of chemicals and wet wool. The messenger led me inside, then vanished abruptly. "Hello?" I called out. The place was silent. "Where is your master?" A second later, the heavy outer door slammed shut with a sickening thud. The sound of a bolt sliding into place echoed through the empty space. I ran to the door and shoved it. It wouldn't budge. "Master Zhao, I know this is you!" I shouted, kicking the wood. A muffled, sneering voice answered from the other side. "No, Shen Yu, it is the Textile Guild, reminding the upstart Peacock of his proper place. You are ruining the market with your cheap gray rags. Stay in there, reflect on your insolence, and when we let you out in a day or two, perhaps your hands will be too stiff to hold a needle." I felt the blood drain from my face. This wasn't just a threat to the business, it was a threat to my survival. Without my skill, I was just the Peacock again. I desperately searched the windows. They were too high. I looked around the room. It was a dyeing vat room, stone floors, drain holes, and ominously a large, sputtering brazier in the corner, used to heat the water for the vats. Then I smelled it. Not dye, but smoke. A thin, acrid plume was curling under the door. They hadn't just locked me in, they were setting the place on fire. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. I threw myself against the door, screaming, but the sound was swallowed by the thick walls. The smoke was getting heavier, burning my throat. I crawled to the brazier and shoved it away from the wall. I felt for any kind of tool, a discarded paddle, a metal grate, anything to use as a battering ram. Nothing. My lungs were starting to ache. I collapsed on the floor, pulling my silk scarf over my mouth. This is it, I thought, the same despair that had consumed Ying during his kidnapping. I survived the crash, I redeemed my name, I learned to live, and now I'm going to die here because I made a better coat. I thought of Shen Li, of my father finally finding pride again, and, irrationally, of General Zhao, with his cold eyes and perfect armor. I thought of the smooth, dark leather of the repaired strap that I had stitched with my own blood and sweat. I should have stayed a useless fop. At least then I would have died of poison, not of fire. Meanwhile, in the East Quarter, General Zhao Wei was doing his nightly inspection of the barracks. He was distracted, constantly glancing toward the direction of the west shop, a habit he couldn't seem to break. A messenger, a boy Shen Li had sent, terrified, came running to the general, gasping for air. "General, Sir Shen Yu, he went to the North Quarter dyers. A suspicious messenger. He didn't return. Shen Li is afraid it's a trap from the guild." Zhao Wei's granite composure shattered. He didn't ask questions. He didn't summon his regiment. He knew that if the Peacock was in danger, it was because of the Tailor, the man who had intrigued him, the man whose hands had touched his skin only hours before. He mounted his charger, not even waiting for his full armor. The heat was becoming unbearable. The ceiling beams were starting to crackle. I was huddled on the stone floor, covering my head, preparing to lose consciousness. Just as the smoke became blinding, the sound hit, a deafening crash, louder than any battle cry. The heavy outer door didn't just open, it was shattered. A figure burst through the smoke, dark and massive. It wasn't wearing an elaborate uniform, just a leather tunic, the tunic I had measured him in. Zhao Wei saw the huddled figure on the floor. He didn't hesitate. He rushed through the flames, ignoring the sparks catching on his leather. "Shen Yu!" he roared, grabbing my shoulders. "You absolute fool! I told you gold cannot buy dignity, but you risk your life for thread? Why did you not send a guard?" I was going to lose my hands, I choked out, tears of smoke and adrenaline streaming down my face. I had to see the technique. The general's expression softened, the rage turning to a devastating, raw tenderness. He realized the depth of my professional fear. He didn't speak again. He simply reached out, pulling my trembling, soot-stained body against his chest, holding me in a fierce and protective embrace. He was breathing hard, the leather of his tunic damp with sweat and smoke. "Never," he whispered into my hair, the word vibrating deep in his chest. "Never risk yourself like that again. I do not care for your silk. I only care that the hands that mended my armor are safe." The embrace tightened. It wasn't a hero holding a victim. It was a man holding the most precious thing he owned. My entire world tilted on its axis. The stoic general had melted. The plot had caught up with us. I didn't pull away. I finally let myself lean in to the undeniable warmth and safety of the male lead.